This is the Unit um, 5 post-assessment called the Swazi 11. Tom French, now you follow along on your paper as I read. Tom French, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, spent 6 years studying zoos and wrote about his experiences in his book, Zoo Story. His book opens with the story of 11 elephants who were taken from Swaziland in Africa and flown to zoos in San Diego and Tampa. Okay, right here is where I'm starting. Highlight as I read if you need to. It was August 21st, 2003, on a Thursday morning. The elephants were in the hold of the plane in crates. Some of them were sleeping on their sides. Others were awake and drinking water. Mick Riley was with them. He and his father ran the Mkaya and Helene game reserves in Africa where the elephants had lived. Mick had grown up with these elephants. "It's not so bad," Mick told the elephants as he refilled their water. Mick was tired. It had been a long flight to get the elephants on this flight. It had been a long fight to get the elephants on this flight. Animal rights activists had tried to stop the elephants from going to zoos. Groups like Born Free and PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, filed a lawsuit and wrote angry letters. The government and even the local newspapers of Swaziland had blamed Mick and his father for sending the elephants to zoos. Mick was upset. People didn't understand. The elephants couldn't stay on the land. There were too many elephants living in Makaya and Helene game reserves. They were ruining the land. Elephants eat for up to 18 hours a day. When they eat, they tear bark off trees and even knock trees down. Elephants had destroyed so many trees that a big part of the parks was now only black and dead trees. Animals like eagles and owls and vultures had no place to nest. In addition, the black rhino, one of Africa's most endangered species, also needed the trees to eat. Now the rhino had no food. If the situation continued, many animals and plants would be wiped out. Mick and his father tried to find another park nearby, but South Africa was overrun with elephants. No park would take any more. The Rileys looked in other places in Africa, but there was a threat of poaching. They did not want their elephants to be shot as trophies and have their tusks sold on the black market. In other parks, rangers had killed elephants to make sure the population stayed low. Mick didn't want to kill his elephants. Of course, none of this was the elephants' fault in the first place. In Swaziland, as in other parts of Africa, elephants have struggled to survive. Humans have taken so much land in Africa and occupy so much space that most animals are confined inside game parks. 50 years ago, there weren't even any elephants in Swaziland. They had all died or been killed off by hunters. Mick's father, Ted, tried to help. He built 3 parks to protect endangered species. The elephants arrived in 1987 and they survived so well in the parks there were soon too many of them. Humans had created this problem. Now it was up to humans to fix it. Zoos were the only option. On this plane, I'm giving them a chance, Mick thought. Before his family had agreed to send the animals to zoos, Mick had visited the zoos and talked to the keepers. He saw that the elephants would be treated well and given as much space as possible. He said the animal clinic at the San Diego Zoo was better than any hospital in Swaziland. The zoos offered to pay $12,000 for each elephant, and Mick and his family would use the money to protect the other animals in the park and buy more land for the animals. On August 15th, the court denied the lawsuit filed by animal rights groups. The elephants would go to the zoos. 4 would go to Tampa to the Lowry Park Zoo, and the other 7 were headed to San Diego. As the plane began its final descent toward Tampa, the elephants were restless. Mick knew the trip could not be easy for them. Surely they would wonder about the strange noises and rumblings around them. Surely they would be confused. He was certain the elephants were hungry after the long flight. Mick went to the elephants and stroked each one. "Kunkudla, Lukin Ingi," he told them. "There's a lot of food where you're going." Now, question number 1 says, what can you infer about Mick and the kind of person he is? Be sure to use evidence from the text to support your answer. Number 2, How do mixed actions and choices impact the plot when analyzing character actions and choices? Consider how they fit into the plot of the story. Include evidence from the story. Number 3, how would the story change if it was told in first-person point of view instead of third-person point of view? Use details and examples from the text to justify your thinking. And number 4, identify a theme in the story, the Swazi 11, and explain which details best develop the theme. When writing about themes, remember to paraphrase evidence from different parts of the story.